Hello, welcome to WTHR Plus. We are talking NFL, Indianapolis Colts. It was a busy week. What a run up to St. Patrick's Day. Just all the NFL news you could even handle. And the Colts were heavily in the mix, maybe a little different than we're accustomed to as far as moving parts and shuffling goes when it comes to the Indianapolis Colts. But joining me is Jake Arthur of Locked On Colts, Roundtable Sports. Jake, there's a lot to get through, but let's
Yes.
start with what was probably the priorities here, and that is keeping Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce in town for the Colts. 2 years, $88 million for Daniel Jones. That can get up to $100 million per multiple reports. And then Alec Pierce, 4 years, $116 million. What do you say about keeping these two in town? Heavy price tag, about what, 80 mil between those two next year alone? So,
Yeah.
what do you think about that?
No, I mean they had to do it. I mean, as soon as the season ended and they decided to keep Shane Steichen and Chris Ballard, Carly Ursay Gordon sold us on the fact that they see the first half of 2025 as being the real Colts, more so than the collapse of the 7 losses in a row. And Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce were a big part of that, obviously. So they're you really don't want to start over at quarterback. Like obviously Jones is coming off the Achilles and he's not mobility wise, he's not going to look exactly the same, but it's really hard to find the kind of chemistry between quarterback and play caller that the Colts have in Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen. And that I think kind of buys them a little bit of a buffer over the injury, I would say, because Shane knows what Daniel is most comfortable with and how to use him. So I do still think we'll see the bootlegs, we'll see the RPOs. I don't know about the QB sneaks that we saw like in the first half, but I think they'll let him move around still a bit, but I think it'll be clear that he's not quite as explosive as he was last year. It's unfortunately for Achilles, it takes about a year or more until they're feeling like them old selves.
I'm happy you mentioned that recovery timetable because we heard from Daniel Jones this week. He's in good spirits. Not as sharply dressed as Alec Pierce, but that's okay. But he says he's hitting all his marks as far as Achilles injury rehab process goes. He says he's confident in his recovery and he expects to be ready to go by week one. That's obviously a lot, not a lot, but less than a year recovery
Yeah.
timetable. Do you believe him? The Colts gave themselves a bit of an out here with it being 2 years. I think it was a good deal for both sides. I mean, it's a going rate for quarterbacks who are above average in this league, and if things really do go south, you have an exit ramp if you need it. And at that point in time, probably everybody's starting over in the Colts organization. But
Yeah.
we'll hope that doesn't happen. But term length of this deal and his injury, diving deeper into that, what did you make of his comments? And do we really think he can be ready for week one?
I think so. Because Chris Ballard already said when we spoke to him at the combine that Jones has kind of cleared the danger zone, which I presume to mean like the highest risk of re-injury. So Jones is already rehabbing. He said he's on schedule. He's hitting all of his marks. So I think it's certainly possible for him to be back by week one. Again, you're not asking him to be Michael Vick or anything. You're gonna,
Right.
I assume, have a plan in place for his abridged mobility, I would say. My thing is more so when's he going to be on the practice field?
Right.
Luckily, like that's a good part of this all having the chemistry. Like, with the exception of Michael Pittman Jr., he's coming back with all the same cast of characters essentially. And maybe they get one or two guys in there to replace Pittman and AD Mitchell. I mean, that's a guy we don't talk about them having to replace enough either. Maybe he
Mhm.
has to work in with those guys, but overall, Jones and all these guys know each other and how they play. So I certainly think that helps, but I would like to see him get in during training camp. I think that'd be very helpful. And then as far as the contract goes, I think it's very friendly for both sides. If you're Jones and you recover and you don't get hurt again and you play well through these 2 years, you're still young enough to cash in on an enormous new deal that would probably dwarf this one, or at least you'll get 4 years out of or something. Like you'll set yourself up very well. But for the Colts, again, what they did here was how the deal is going to be structured. I believe there's void years, but like right now, the cap hit this year is minuscule for what his broader contract figure is.
Right.
So when we saw the transition tag and we saw a $37.8 million cap hit, that was never going to be realistic. If you wanted to do anything else in free agency, including get Alec Pierce back, that was going to be a crazy number, like just way too high. So now it's much, much, much more manageable, and they have cap space now to work with, which is good. When you have that multi-year deal, you can kind of manipulate things however you want. And we figured there was going to be a boatload of guaranteed money in there, which takes it away from the salary cap hit. So I think it's very friendly for both sides. You don't always see it that way, but 2-year deals are kind of hard to mess up.
Equal risk reward for both. I feel like, to your
Yeah.
point, like Daniel Jones has got to be feeling good that the Colts have faith in him to give him that large number, albeit for 2 years. And the Colts with the injury and everything, but I think 8-2 with him on the field last year. You can't if I'm repping Daniel Jones, that's all I'm talking about. It's like look at what happened when he was on the field. Look what happened when he's off the field. So obviously this. It was a bit of a domino effect. This was later in the week, but the Alec Pierce deal specifically, we can transition to that because
Mm-hmm.
you mentioned the salary cap, and I want to get your thoughts, but we can go in kind of chronological order here. But the Colts signed Alec Pierce, 4 years, $116 million. Obviously, you weren't going to let him go. He's improving at a rate, I think, early in his career. Colts fans would have been shocked had you told them what he's done this past season and the season before that as well. Just the kind of gradual and then serious increase of production from him, but not without having to clear space. And obviously, the big move that same day was trading Michael Pittman Jr. Okay, so thoughts on the Alec Pierce deal, just on its face, okay, 4 years, $116 million, and then the void of Michael Pittman Jr. in that room, and maybe the elevation of Alec Pierce to a wide receiver one. All those things kind of happened at once. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think we had to quickly come to the realization that, checking all the boxes on getting Pierce into the right situation was probably going to make Michael Pittman Jr. expendable. Because not only did the money have to make sense, and Michael Pittman Jr. had the sixth highest cap hit among all NFL receivers before this happened,
Hmm.
that was never going to work out. So you think maybe you come to him about a restructured contract, you figure something out there, or an outright, pay cut, whatever. You never know how it goes, but you got to explore those things. But then, you think about the amount of money you're going to give Alec Pierce that obviously needs to come with more targets and a larger involvement in the passing game. Well, how are you going to do that with that many mouths to feed? You had Pittman, Downs, Tyler Warren. Like, you already had guys in there that were receiving a lot of targets because, like, Pierce had a career high 84 targets last year, but was fourth on the team in targets. So it's like, where's that coming from? So that means, you have to do something with Pittman. Ideally, you work out a trade like they did. The compensation wasn't great, but when you have a guy that's making that much money, you're going to get paid a lot less for it because you're kind of paying the other team to take on that contract. So when you see the Colts send Michael Pittman Jr. and a seventh to the Steelers for a sixth rounder, you're really saying, Pittsburgh, can you take this huge contract off of our hands?
Right.
So that is kind of why they had such limited, return on that one. But it's bittersweet to see Pittman go. I mean, because he's probably not the player that he used to be. He's not the guy that got that huge contract in the 2024 offseason. But you like to see Alec Pierce involved more. He's an explosive player. He can do more than just the big play stuff. Someone he was compared to coming into the NFL was Jordy Nelson, and not just the white guy receiver trope. But
Yeah, right.
Pierce hasn't, involvement wise, hasn't gotten past the explosive receiver part. But as like Jordy Nelson's career developed and other guys kind of fell off and fell to the wayside, you saw him involved in a lot more short to intermediate stuff. And I don't think Pierce is ever going to be like a heavily involved guy within like 5 yards. You're not going to see him get a lot of screens, but shorter slant, shorter out routes, comeback, stuff like that, I think we'll see broaden his game a little more. And I'm eager to see it because if you get him the ball with a full head of steam and room to run, I think he can make big plays there too.
Yeah, it's an increase in his involvement and seeing him just continue to blossom into. There was a lot of talk and noise after his first year or two. Like,
Hmm.
I mean, is this guy going to do anything? And man, it has just been a serious improvement from him. And
Yeah.
if that continues, I think it will be much easier to stomach a Michael Pittman Jr. loss and an AD Mitchell loss. But I mean, you have Josh Downs, you have Tyler Warren. It's really, really solid. I mean, but the Colts wide receiver room and skill position group was good. They weren't both over what, 23 million good. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Like
It's a
you had
lot.
you had to do something with that Michael Pittman Jr. contract, and it
Yep.
stinks because the leadership piece that stinks because I mean he was super tough. Shane Steichen loved his toughness, loved his leadership in that room. Reggie Wayne and him, I feel like Reggie really pushed him. It's good stuff, but I think it's a good
Hmm.
fit in Pittsburgh for him. And he's still getting a solid, I would say, a friendly deal, 3 years,
Oh
$59 million.
yeah.
Steelers. So obviously we wish the best to Michael Pittman Jr. But Alec Pierce, I think if he continues to improve, worth the number, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you want to see him hit the maximum. Same with Daniel Jones. Like a lot of people see 2 years up to 100 million. Well, if he gets to 100 million, that's good for everybody because it means he's been reaching expectations.
Right. No question about it. Okay, so obviously, with the big contracts that we've seen with Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce came a lot of players leaving. And I think this is
Hmm.
the biggest kind of I'm not used to covering the Colts or being a fan of
Yeah.
the Colts. Like a lot of people out the door. So Nick Cross to the Commanders, Kwity Paye to the Raiders, Braden Smith to the Texans, Neville Gallimore to the Bears, Samson Ebukam to the Falcons, Rodney Thomas to the Seahawks, and you
Yeah.
traded Zaire Franklin and Michael Pittman Jr.
Crazy.
So you got room now to give these guys these big contracts, but is it too much subtraction and not enough addition? What do you think about the shuffling? And I'm seeing defense. I mean, just pretty much exclusively defense outside of Braden Smith.
Yeah, I mean, we knew that defensive remake was coming just because they told us they want to get younger and faster, and there was a lot of money tied up there, and just the opportunity to move on. Like Kwity Paye never quite reached expectations, and they needed more. Opposite of Latu, Ebukam, Tyquan Lewis, those guys were older. You know, Zaire Franklin, I don't know how well he fit into Louis Anarumo's scheme. So like you saw a reason for all those guys leaving. And I don't think it's bad for the Colts to let those guys go, but you have to do something to replace them right now. Like the amount of guys on defense they have let walk have an average of 41 career starts for the Colts. But yet everyone from the outside that they've signed aren't even really supposed to be starters. Like Arden Key is the one that kind of flashes the most, but he really ought to be like your third pass rusher. So
Right.
it's like they've let all these super experienced starters go and haven't replaced them with any starters. It's all been rotational guys. So we're waiting to see what comes next. I mean, like I do think they had plans for Trey Hendrickson to be wearing a horseshoe on his helmet.
Right.
That kind of obviously developed all in a crazy short span of time with what went on with the Raiders and Ravens. But I mean, you got to do something. Like you got the cap space. You certainly have the needs. Right now, this defense is a bit barren, and that's we already said they needed to let some of these guys go so that they could refortify it and like kind of rebuild this thing. Well, they've gutted the house, but they haven't refurnished anything yet.
Yeah. Yeah, no question. But you signed Derek Nottie, Arden Key, Michael Clemens, and that's great. Okay. And you got Colby Wooden in a trade. So, in theory, the defensive line serviceable. I think you're
Mm-hmm.
absolutely right. I think they were expecting Trey Hendrickson to kind of really lift
Yeah.
that group. Last thing here. The draft becomes important, but you don't have a first
Mm-hmm.
round pick.
Right.
But deep with the linebacker position, do you take a flyer on a wide receiver late? Like, what are you thinking? How has the priority shifted?
Yeah, it's tough because you lose Michael Pittman Jr. and that was the guy who saw the highest volume, of snaps and work as a receiver on your team. So like you have to replace a significant receiver. And there are some guys there on day two in the second and third round at receiver that make a lot of sense. But your defensive front seven is not presentable right now. Like you cannot
Right.
go into if the season started this week, it'd be a nightmare. They are not ready to go there. So I think certainly anything on the front seven, primarily edge defender. I think they're probably okay on the interior right now, but defensive end and certainly linebacker, they have no starting linebackers right now. Defensive end and linebacker, I think, are most critical. And then I also look at wide receiver because you have to replace Pittman. There's two guys at safety you have to replace as well because Nick Cross, a starter, that's 1,000 snap guy for you, one of the most prominent players on your defense. And Rodney Thomas, I mean, Lou Anarumo uses a lot of sub packages with a third safety. So Rodney Thomas played a good bit. So you got two safeties to replace and a receiver outside of just on the front seven. So you got work to do.
Well, every Colts fan wants to hear, no question
Right.
about it.
Yeah.
But you got Daniel Jones and Alec Pierce. We'll see how it plays out. Busy, busy week. Off season, not without some drama, which is new around these parts, which is fun. So, Jake, appreciate your time, man. That's Jake Arthur of Locked On Colts and Roundtable Sports. We'll have much more on air and on WTHR Plus revolving the Colts off season. A lot of fun. See you next time.